Trump is trying to paint Vice President Harris as an ultra-liberal. Of all her potential running mates, you might have the most progressive record as governor. I know you were more of a moderate when you were in the House, but you've legalized recreational marijuana, you passed universal background checks on guns, you expanded LGBTQ protections, you implemented tuition-free college for low-income Minnesotans. There's free breakfast and lunch for school kids. Do you think your record is an asset to the ticket, or would it risk fueling Trump's attacks as you being a big government liberal?
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn.
While we still have no idea who presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris will choose as her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is clearly marketing himself and his accomplishments as governor of Minnesota. And here he is rattling off all of the policies that he has managed to implement in his state while speaking to Jake Tapper on CNN.
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn, and women are making their own healthcare decisions. And we're a top 5 business state, and we also rank in the top 3 of happiness. Look, they're gonna label whatever they're gonna label. He's gonna roll it out, mispronounce names, to try and make the case. The fact of the matter is, where you see the policies that Vice President Harris was a part of making, Democratic governors across the country executed those policies, and quality of life is higher, the economies are better, all of those things. Educational attainment is better. So yeah, my kids are gonna eat here, and you're gonna have a chance to go to college, and you're gonna have an opportunity to live where we're working on reducing carbon emissions. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have personal incomes that are higher, and you're gonna have health insurance. So if that's where they wanna label me, I'm more than happy to take the label.
I particularly love his unapologetic style. The fact that he doesn't seem to be the type of person who's gonna easily cave to the questionable framing that Jake Tapper had in that question, because he tried to make it seem like, I don't know, your progressive policy implementation in your own state might not be an asset to Kamala Harris, right? Which I thought was an interesting way of framing that question. But he hit back, Walz did, with, in my opinion, the kind of unapologetic strength that politicians on the left should have. And I'm glad to see that he does have that.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it. I have a lot of points to make about Tim Walz, but in terms of the question and the framing, look, by itself, I don't mind the question as long as you've got someone that can actually answer it like Tim Walz. My problem for the last 40 years has been Democrats' usual answer to that is, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not a progressive. I'm as a Republican, close to as Republican as I could possibly get. I'm so sorry, right? So it's so refreshing to hear someone say, God damn right we did these policies, and look at their fantastic results. And he does it with a smile on his face. It's a perfect answer. But the context is, Anna is correct about. Jake Tapper and every cable news anchor for my entire life, whenever you do anything decent for the average American, they're like, doesn't that make you radical progressive? Well, okay, if progressive means helping kids get lunch and making sure you got health care and higher wages, yeah, great, please, shout it from the rooftops. Last part of the dishonest framing on that is people are pretending that Kamala Harris is progressive. So they're like, wait, is it a problem to have 2 very similar progressives on the ticket?
Yes, such a good point. Yes, keep going.
Yeah, similar, how, what has Kamala Harris done that's progressive? You guys are just calling her progressive just because Donald Trump is calling her far left progressive. Why is cable news helping Donald Trump with a ludicrous talking point? Kamala Harris hasn't done anything progressive.
So I have a theory on that. In terms of economic policy, she is not a progressive. There's no indication that she's progressive. In fact, back in 2021, when she had the ability to essentially do away with the Senate parliamentarian to essentially allow for the passage of a higher minimum wage, she didn't do that. She didn't take that opportunity. The reason why they see her as progressive is because she engages in the culture war optics of progressivism. Right, that's all it is. But in terms of
barely,
not barely. Okay, like the promoting of cops bad, all of that stuff. Like she did engage in that, and it's
for
optics.
a brief time. But what she actually did was she was a cop, right? And
okay, she used to be a very effective prosecutor back in the day. Once that came out of style with the Democratic Party, she immediately pivoted to, defund the police and all of that stuff.
So a 6-month rhetorical pivot.
Yes.
Rhetorical on one tiny issue apparently makes her a far left progressive. I wish she was a progressive.
Okay.
She's not anywhere near a progressive.
But what's also not helping, and I really want progressives and leftists to be aware of this, is the fact that they went from hating her, thinking that she's a cop, to now promoting her like crazy, right? And that gives this air, it gives this idea that Kamala Harris is beloved by leftists and progressives. And what I'm trying to communicate here is they have given their leverage away, because obviously you want someone like Tim Walz to be the running mate as opposed to someone who's more conservative or moderate like Mark Kelly, right? A senator from Arizona. And so if progressives are already 100% on board with Kamala Harris, what leverage does she have? Or what leverage do they have to push her to choose Tim Walz over Mark Kelly? Now you look at Mark Kelly, consider that he's from Arizona. He has attacked his own party, the Democratic Party, over border policies. Kamala Harris knows that she's gonna be targeted and attacked by Trump on immigration. So right now, really, it's the moderate to conservative Democrats who have the leverage to push Kamala Harris to choose Mark Kelly rather than someone like Tim Walz. Stop giving your cookies away, progressives, okay? Like this coconut pill thing is embarrassing. Okay, you can support
And it's based on nothing. It's based on nothing. So look, I'm not going to agree with any kid who just showed up. It's like a 14-year-old who's like, oh my God, Kamala Harris is so progressive. Show me a policy. Show me a policy. Don't tell me, oh, did you know she's the first black woman vice president? Hey, 14-year-old, yes, I know that. That's not policy, okay? So I'm not interested in her identity, and that doesn't prove a damn thing. Ben Carson is also African American. You should look into that. Do you know who he is?
Is he progressive?
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. And anyways, look, cable news has an agenda. Their agenda is pick the most corporate friendly candidates, period. So that's why they're saying more progressive or populist leaning people, especially if they're economically populist, as Tim Walz is and Josh Harris is in Pennsylvania, okay? I'm sorry, Josh Shapiro.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and so they're like, oh, that wouldn't balance the ticket. You have to balance the ticket. Mark Kelly says Kamala Harris is a progressive. Mark Kelly, as a total corporatist, conservative, boring white dude, would balance the ticket, right? That's the agenda. When in reality, if you actually cared about balancing the ticket, Kamala Harris, in all of her actions, has been, to say very corporate friendly, would be an understatement, okay? You would balance it with someone who is an economic populist like Tim Walz or Josh Shapiro. You wouldn't go to Mark Kelly because that's more of the same, but you will get the exact opposite propaganda on cable news.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, I just want to remind you all that Tim Walz and the state of Minnesota has been getting props for some time now over the implementation of wonderful economic policies. In fact, this is an MSNBC interview from a year ago where they listed some of those policies. So let's take a look at that.
The list of accomplishments for this recent legislative session is impressive. Democrats codified abortion rights, paid family and medical leave, sick leave, transgender rights protections, driver's licenses for undocumented residents, restoration of voting rights for people when they're released from prison or jail, wider voting access, and adopted background checks for private gun transfers, and a red flag warning system to take guns from people deemed by a judge to be a threat to themselves or others. And that's just a few of the things done this session.
So he doesn't talk the talk, he walks the walk. And again, that's a video from a year ago well before Kamala Harris was going to be the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee. And so I do think that he would add something robust and important to the ticket. It would certainly calm some of my concerns about Kamala Harris, especially considering the fact that she's been taking a lot of money from the business community. I mean, she was, Reid Hoffman, who is the co-founder of LinkedIn, donated $7 million to her campaign, hoping that she will get elected and fire Lena Khan, the head of the FTC, who is hated by the business community because she actually wants to enforce antitrust laws and break up big monopolies. And so we'll see how that plays out. But right now, all of the incentives for Kamala Harris, considering the fact that progressives are already on board with her, indicate that she should go for Mark Kelly as opposed to someone like Tim Walz, and I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, so look, my thoughts on the vice presidential candidate are narrowing significantly. So I thought doubling down on an all-female ticket with Gretchen Whitmer, not policy-wise, but strategy-wise, politics would have been savvy, would have been a good strategic move, but she's now withdrawn from the race 8 different times. So I'm assuming that she's correct on that and she's not really available anymore. Bashir is much more conservative, but he's won in Kentucky twice. I still have him as a dark horse potential, just on the winning part, not on the policy part. Mark Kelly does nothing. Buttigieg does nothing. It's just more corporate friendly guys who are not remotely economically populist. They don't connect with the average person. Telling me that they're an astronaut or they're gay doesn't help at all. Those are just random things having nothing to do with policy or strategy, okay? And by the way, you shouldn't count the fact that Pete Buttigieg is gay against them either, or Shapiro being Jewish, or any of the random things. Oh, I think Americans hate this or that, and I'm gonna, no. What Americans want is somebody that fights for them. They don't care if the person is gay, Jewish, black, Muslim. They don't care about any of that, okay? They just want somebody to fight for them. And if that is the right way to pick it, a balanced ticket is better. It unifies the party. And so that leaves me, and although I would love Bernie and I would love Jamie Raskin, who I've mentioned 17 different times, those are not realistic at this point. They're not in consideration, right? So of the people that are in consideration, to me, Tim Walz is a great one. I mean, how much more do you want him to do in Minnesota? And he's got both progressive social issues and progressive economic issues. Tons of economic populism there that delivers for the average person in Minnesota, no matter who they are, okay? And Shapiro in Pennsylvania went after the Wall Street guys that charge way too much for the pensions, kicked out a bunch of Wall Street firms. That is super courageous, because that pisses off a lot of the donors and actually gets a lot of money back to the average worker in Pennsylvania. He went against predatory lenders. Again, economically populist, politically courageous. They're both good speakers. Shapiro sounds a little too much like Barack Obama.
100%.
Okay, like bring it down, even though I like him.
Just be a normal person.
Yeah. Tim Walz is a great speaker and sounds and looks like an average dude.
Yes, totally.
And that's the optics of politics, that helps.
I agree.